All right, it's been a while since we've done one of these, like in person, so it's kind of strange. A part of me is like, I don't even know how to start. As the interviewer, it's very different being in the hot seat. So kudos to all who have gone before me. But the whole point of this is to hear a little bit about guys and their journey and how they've kind of ended up here at the club here in Houston, all that kind of stuff. So for starters, maybe let's talk. Where are you from? What does your family look like? What was young Mitch like? Was he just as large in the torso? And no?
No, not even. So I was born in St. Louis, Missouri. Lived there till about first grade. Moved to Dallas for a year, and then moved to Houston. I went to St. Edward's in Spring, where Richard goes to church. Went to school there till halfway through my 8th grade year, then moved back to St. Louis. Went to high school in St. Louis and went off to Ole Miss, and then joined the Air Force, and then came here. But as a little kid, I was just a little fat, weak, chubby kid. And yeah, definitely not. I got into fitness and stuff whenever I got into high school and college. Played football and wrestling and much just like dove into sports in high school. And have 10 other brothers and sisters, so big family. I'm the third oldest of 11. So I have taken care of my little siblings for a long time. So I'm married. My wife Kimmy, and we have a new son. He's right now about a little bit over a month and a half, almost 2 months. March 3rd, will be 2 months old. His name's Leo, and so I'm a dad, godfather, and husband. So yeah.
Cool. What's it like being the third oldest in a family of 11, beyond taking care of younger siblings?
Yeah, it's awesome. I love it because I'm at a point a position in my family where I'm young enough to where I have an older brother and older sister to look up to, but I'm old enough to where I have younger sisters and brothers that I can teach things to. I can teach them how to throw, baseball, football, teach them how to hit, like actually tackle, teach them how, my brother in high school, teach them how to work out, teach them how to get faster, go watch them play, cheer for them. So it's an awesome position to be in. Being older too, you get a lot of responsibility. I learned from an early age. I mean, and I was one as a young kid that I loved to get out of chores. My older brother and sister have tons of stories about me complaining that my legs didn't work and crying on the stairs. So that's why I couldn't do chores, or I was a big complainer. But being in that position, you have to eventually get to a point where you have to help out. And so I learned a lot of lessons, just like being the third oldest. So it's been a great blessing for me, for sure.
Awesome. For those who don't know, what do you do professionally?
So I teach 5th grade at Western Academy. I'm in the reserves for the Air Force as well. And I've been teaching there for about, this is my first full school year. So I got there last February. So I just taught the end of the second semester there, and then I coach. I coach for the school. I coach football. I coach some basketball, and then I coach the rugby team. And actually, we play Bobby's team on March 3rd.
Seriously. So how many times do you get asked the question when you tell people that you're a teacher and then you tell them you're a 5th grade teacher? Is that something that people tend to find kind of odd? Or like a man who teaches young children seems maybe slightly out of the norm. So what brought you to either Western or teaching specifically younger boys?
No, it's a good question, because in high school I went to a Catholic high school. And I distinctly remember I had, for history class, this high school is called Christian Brothers College High School, and St. John Baptist de La Salle started this order of brothers, and they were an order of teachers. And so I had this brother, his name was Brother Peter, and he was my history teacher. He was like 6'3", like 200 and like maybe 250. He was this huge guy, but he was like 60, 65 years old. He was a Golden Glove boxer as a kid in Chicago. He had a thick Chicago accent. He was super loud. He would scare the living daylights out of us in class, yelling at us to focus in. His hands were all gnarled and bent because he had punched so many people in the face. But I remember he gave us an assignment one time to, it was like we were covering, I don't know, like the Explorers or something like that. And each of us took a topic and we had to teach it to the class. And I remember it was the most fun I ever had doing a homework assignment. I threw my whole self into it. I made these, all the other guys in the class were mad at me because I made like worksheets for them to do while I was talking. I like made these awesome, well, I thought it was awesome, this awesome PowerPoint with like maps and all of this stuff. And I was walking around the classroom and teaching the other guys the same age as I. And I had so much fun. And I thought, well, maybe this might be something I want to do for, and I was like, no, teachers don't make a lot of money. And then I went to college, and my degree is in insurance and risk management, and because that's what my dad did, or does. Yeah, there we go, Rob. And shout out, yeah. And I did some internship, but I always had this kind of like pull at my heart, like this is something, because I got into this, I mean, I can go into it later, but this kind of crisis point in college where it was like, okay, you know, I was just asking God to help me with my vocation. I was like, is this what you want me to do? And I had this just like slight tug in my heart to teaching just sounded so much fun. I imagined myself as a teacher, but I always just kept pushing that idea away because I was like, no. Because the thing the excuse I kept coming up with was teachers just don't make a lot of money. Well, I was in the Air Force, active duty, and I had been at Tyndall Air Force Base, and I was there for about 5 years. And typically as an officer, you're only there for like 2.5 years. And I extended because Hurricane Michael came and hit the base, wiped it out, and my place wasn't affected. I had troops where their homes were destroyed, so I was like, okay, I'll stay and help clean up, help you guys, whatever you need. So I stayed, and then they extended me out, and I was getting orders to leave, and then my commander was like, no, you can't leave because there's this installation deployment officer job that nobody else can do. So she was like, you're the only senior officer here that can do it. So I was like, all right, thanks. So I got extended again, and then I had my orders were way extended. I was supposed to go to Dover Air Force Base in Delaware, and I didn't want to go. I was like, Delaware, I don't want to move. We really wanted to go to Europe. We wanted to go to Japan or someplace cool, and that didn't happen. And so we were sitting there, my wife and I was like, well, what if we stay here? And she was like, that would be cool. And because we had made great friends, we kind of threw ourselves into the community, you know, just helping other people out. And, you know, it was really cool to watch the whole community come together. It kind of, you know, tied us to the community. We didn't want to leave. We made amazing friends that we're still really close with today, to this day. And so I started looking at options of jumping over to the AGR, Active Guard Reserves, where you can just stay at that base and be in the reserves, but like work every day. You're not going in once a week or once a month, 2 times or 2 weeks out of the year. And so I looked into the regulations. As a good officer, I was reading everything, you know, trying to find the loophole. And there was this loophole where if you get pushed out a certain amount of time, you can cancel your order. So I put in that paperwork, and I got my orders canceled. And so then I had the opportunity to do whatever I wanted. I could have joined the AGR. I could have gotten out. I could have done whatever I wanted to do. And I got a note from the headmaster at Western Academy. And there's a whole backstory to that where my brothers went to Western Academy. 2 of my brothers graduated from there. I have a brother that's in 8th grade there now. And I had, I'd gone, whenever I got out of college, I had some time before I got into the Air Force. And so I was like picking them up from school before, at the end of the year in May. And I got to know the priest that was there, that was the chaplain there. And I started going to this camp, Leadership Camp Texas, that a lot of the teachers worked. And then my younger brothers became really good friends with their teachers and had them over for like Thanksgiving dinner and stuff. So I got to know all these teachers. And just through talking with them, I just said, hey, before my orders got canceled and everything, I was just like, hey, if teaching spot ever opens, I'd be interested in going and doing that. I think it would be cool. And so fast forward to my orders being canceled in the summer. Well, their 5th grade teacher, COVID hit, and he actually, Larry Monks, a lot of you guys probably know who he is. Yeah. There's Blake. Yeah. So he stepped down. He left the school, and so they had a vacancy, and so they're just trying to find somebody to fill this teaching position. And so the headmaster emailed me, said, hey, I know you were interested. Some of the guys here said you're interested. Would you want to come out and interview? And I turned to my wife and I was like, what do you think? And she was like, absolutely, this is what you want to do. So I threw myself into it, jumped on the opportunity, emailed them back, said yeah, went back to Houston, interviewed, and a part of the interview process is you teach a class, and I spent like weeks preparing. It was just like I went over a poem. I went over If by Rudyard Kipling. Oh no, not Rudyard Kipling. I went over what is it? That's like Half League. The Charge of Light Brigade. And I had brought this snare drum to teach them the rhythm and the meter, and we went over the Battle of Balaclava and all this stuff, and I had so much fun doing it, and they offered me the job, and I said absolutely. And so I let my orders run out, and for me to do that, to move to Houston, I found a reserve job in San Antonio, and it was just like everything lined up. Everything was perfect for me to go there, and I was like, okay. All right, God, like this is where you want me. So this is where I'm at. So when people, look at me and they ask me, I tell them I'm a teacher, and they give me kind of that kind of side look. I'm not a woman. I'm not this old lady in my, 30s or 40s, part of some teachers union and, teaching or whatever, trying to be tenured. They think I don't make a lot of money. I must be super poor. I must not really like my job. But they just, I just smile and say, no, it's, just trying to, just kindly say it's, it's my vocation. It's what I love to do. And what they don't understand is that, when you teach, especially at this school, you can touch so many, just the ability to teach these boys, to help them grow in virtue, to hear their stories, listen to them, help them with like anger issues. In so many of these cases, I see myself in a lot of these little guys. And I know, not that I know exactly what to say. I've had to learn how to do that. But I understand where they're coming from. And so it's just been, all of this has just been an absolute whirlwind and gift to even get to this point.
Yeah. I'm going to ask the question that every Catholic father, maybe other fathers are thinking in here. What perks do Arrows players who take the pitch with you get when it comes to tuition assistance at Western?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
What do we need to do? No.
You get the inside track.
So it kind of sounds like, there's this seed that's planted in high school. And I was curious in asking of like being third amongst 11 siblings, how much of you just growing up and helping to raise younger siblings kind of brings about this either whether you want to call it like the sibling instinct or the older brother or even like this paternal reality, but how much of life was spent helping guide younger siblings along the way, and maybe recognizing there's something early on, even with you at home and within your family, recognizing that there's kind of some natural abilities to teach and to mentor and to help raise people. So tell me a little bit now. You mentioned a little bit of seeing yourself in these kids. And you mentioned obviously like, vocation, and it seems like God's doing all this. Where does God fit in your family growing up into high school at CBC? Like what does that all look like? How did you end up going to the Air Force? Like where was God in the midst of that? What was your relationship with God like?
Yeah. So I was a cradle Catholic. My mom, my dad he's Catholic as well, but I would say like my mom was kind of the Catholic rock. There's a whole story. She has a whole story. My older sister, we don't share the same dad, so she had her whole own conversion story that she's talked about. She's actually talked about it on a Catholic radio station. But so she had this huge conversion in college, stayed, just very, very, very fervent in her faith. And, and my dad has since, and recently has really thrown himself into his faith. But we always went to Mass on Sundays, went to Catholic school. And I knew it was important. I didn't know why it was important. This is what we did type of thing. And it wasn't really until, and then when I went to high school at CBC, there were a lot of really awesome opportunities to do like service work, and, went on the pro-life march, did things like, worked this camp for special education kids or special ed kids. So there were a lot of really awesome opportunities that exposed me to Corporal Works of Mercy in high school. I remember one year in high school I went and spent some time actually with my oldest sister's dad, who's now a Catholic priest. That's a whole story. But at the time he wasn't. Yeah, it's an awesome story. He was just a guy that he had never remarried. He had a fruit truck and he delivered fruit, and then he went hard in the paint for Catholicism. I mean, he was going to daily mass. He was saying the rosary on his routes. He was going and working at a soup kitchen. And I went and worked with him. And that was kind of like the first time I saw somebody outside my dad that was like extremely on fire for the faith. And when I went and he was like, "You sure you want to come spend time with me?" I was like, "Yeah, I want to spend time with you." Because as a little kid, I was a little hellion. And so they never let me go over and hang out with Tony because I would probably like set the place on fire or something. And so I wanted to spend time with him. I wanted to just learn more about him. I wanted to see what he was up to. Because he's a strong guy. He played softball, like competitive softball, super athletic. So I was like, okay, what do you got? Let me just spend some time with you. And I remember he told me, he was like, everything that I do, you don't have to do any of it. If you just want to sleep on the couch or, sleep in or stay here, you can. I was like, heck no. And it was kind of a challenge for me. I was like, no way. We had to wake up at like 1 a.m. to start his fruit truck runs. So I would help him with his fruit truck run, and we would say the rosary on the route. Then afterwards, we would get back at like noon, go to daily mass. We would catch some sleep, and then I think over the weekend or it was like every other day we went to the soup kitchen. We met these awesome missionaries of charity. I still remember Sister Celine Gian. She once there's a guy who walked in with a hammer, and she was like maybe like 4 feet tall, and she like walked right up to him and told him to go outside and put that hammer down, like just fearless. And so I was like kind of first like really like, okay, this is what living a truly authentic Catholic life looks like. And so that really stuck with me throughout the rest of my time in high school. And then I go off to college at Ole Miss, and Ole Miss is known for being a party school, and I got caught up in all of that. I joined a fraternity and met some awesome guys. And then I did ROTC. I didn't even want to do ROTC. My brother, we were touring the school, and my brother was like, "Hey, I'm going to go up and talk to the Air Force rep," because my grandpa's in the Air Force, so that's what he wanted to join. And I was like, "Hey, I'm going to go upstairs and talk to the recruiting officer." And it was Mississippi in like August, and it's really hot in Mississippi in August. And I was like, "Heck no, not staying in this hot car. I'm going upstairs with you in the air conditioning." And so I went up there, and he talked me through it with my brother. And I was like, "Oh, this sounds cool. I get to run, stay in shape, and do all those things." I played sports and stuff, so I wanted to, not, gain 1,000 pounds in college. So I was like, "Okay, I'll do it." And the first day for PT, my brother's supposed to pick me up, and he doesn't show up. And I'm calling him. I'm like, "Sean, where are you?" Like leaving him voicemails. I'm calling him like 100 times, and he never picked up. So I ran to PT, did PT, got back, and my brother calls me like, "Hey man, I'm sorry. I'm not doing RTC anymore." He's like, "I went out last night and I thought about it, and I talked to some people, and I'm not going to do it anymore." And I was like, "Gosh dang it." And so I stuck with it, which was the best thing for me because I had the discipline of Air Force ROTC that kind of kept me in check, kept me out of trouble. I got in plenty of trouble, doing stupid stuff. But so it kind of kept me grounded a little bit. I still went to mass every Sunday because it was just one of those things I knew I had to do. And I was just making mistakes after mistakes after mistakes while I was there. And I remember in college there was one Sunday afternoon, and the church was close enough to where I could walk across campus and go there. And I remember walking back from mass and just being like, I don't want to live like this anymore. Like the drinking, the girls, the all this. I was like, it just isn't fun. Like it isn't fun to feel like garbage. And I was like, and I had this weird. For me it was a blessing. This weird thing where I just like could not stop thinking about death. It wasn't like a depressing thing where I wanted to die, but it was like we will all die. It was just kind of the thought that kept going to my mind. And it was like every decision that I make, every choice I make, has an eternal consequence. And I was like, I don't like this. And so I graduated college, still, being caught up in the party scene and doing all that stuff and being a crazy guy and picking up my brothers at Western. There is a great Opus Dei priest, Father Frank. He's still in town. He's in Houston. And I was just standing there watching the chaos of pickup at Western Academy and just marveling at how awesome it was. How boys are climbing in trees and running around, tackling each other, wrestling, and the teachers are just letting it go, And he just turns to me. He says, "Hey, my name's Father Frank. What's your name?" And we just got to talking. We just talked about, LCT, this camp, the summer camp that I went to as a little kid. We started talking about the school and all this stuff, and he invited me to a day of recollection. And which an Opus Dei Day of Recollection is just a time where you go and you have the priest gives a talk. There's confession. There's another talk given by somebody who's not a priest, usually an older guy. And then you have another talk with some more time confession. I remember going to confession and just like pouring my heart out to the priest about all the stupid stuff I had done in college that I hadn't gone to confession about. And he was like, "I don't know who you are, but if you want to talk after this, let's chat." And so after the recollection, him and I walked and sat down on a bench, and we chatted for like almost 2 hours. And he was the first priest that ever cussed at me. And I was like, it was just what I needed. And he was just like, "Are you, read me the riot act. Like was not like, oh, it's okay that you did this or whatever." It was like, no, you're living in this way, but you have more potential. Like there's more that you can be. And I was like, dang. And so I started to kind of turn my life around. And then he recommended this book, which I recommend all you guys to read. Fulton Sheen wrote this book called 3 to Get Married. And I read it, and it rocked my world. It is the best, in my opinion, the best book that distills what marriage is all about. How marriage is with the husband and wife and God. It's not it's not just you, it's not just her. God has to be in this whole equation. And so I had this conversion. I was dating this girl at the time, and the priest had recommended to not communicate with her, like not text with her, but write her letters. And I remember I wrote her probably like 15 letters, and she responded to none of them. So whenever we finally started talking again, I was like, okay, I don't know if this is really going to work out. And and she wasn't Catholic, and we eventually broke up. And it was probably the best thing for me, and I just like was in Tyndall Air Force Base. I was at Tyndall Air Force Base. And I was like, all right, I just threw myself into the Catholic faith. I decided I was reading everything that Fulton Sheen had written that I could get my hands on. It was the first, after reading him, I was like, man, you can be smart when you read? And I was like, let's go. Let's read everything.
SEC education for you there.
Exactly. No, seriously. Well, I had this kind of like intellectual fire, this ember like burning at my senior year. I remember one of the last days of the year, I went to the library and I was like, whoa, there's a lot of books here. And so I was like, I don't know anything about anything. So I was like, let me pick one. I'm going to read it. So I picked like Aristotle, like the Nicomachean Ethics or something. I started reading it and I was like, I don't understand a word in this book, man. And so after reading Fulton Sheen, it was like, okay, he distilled everything down to where everything just made so much sense. I had to look up a lot of words in the dictionary that he used because I didn't know what they meant. But it like exploded this intellectual fire that we have this ability to know God in other ways. And that's what I was kind of I feel like where God was kind of pulling me to kind of the teaching side, the side of like, okay, this is how you're going to get to know me, is to read, is to educate yourself. And so I started reading everything Fulton Sheen had written. Was just like, oh man, this is true. This is truth. This is so true. This is, this is the way I want to live. It just seems like I can be so much happier whenever, I'm striving towards virtue. And all along the way, I had Father Frank with me. I was calling him constantly, being like, hey, Father Frank, I messed up. I did this, I did this, I did this. And the biggest thing for me is he was like, Mitch, you're struggling. And that's okay. Like that's what your journey is all about. Is you're gonna fall. You're gonna struggle, especially at this early stage. I was like an infant in my spiritual life. I knew nothing. I didn't know how to. It was hard for me to control myself after spending so many years of living in vice. And so he was a great help to be like, when I did fall, when I did mess up, and I needed to go to confession, and calling him, being like, and I have such a close relationship with him, that I'm just upfront with him, like, hey man, I went out, I got drunk, and what do I do? And he's like, okay, did you go to confession? And I ask him, okay, well, I want to fast. I want to like really throw myself back in. He's like, whoa, pump the brakes. Like, you can't go all out. He's like, you got to take piece by piece. And it's had this snowball effect. And I still struggle to this day. But I think, that's the thing with virtue. And as God, God's kind of, the way I see God, kind of the arc in my life is like, he finally has gotten my attention, and it's like, baby step by baby step, I'm getting there. And there are times where I trip over myself and I fall flat on my face, but he's there to pick me back up and keep moving forward.
Nice. So infant Mitch, now to adult grown-ass man Mitch, husband, father, right? Where does your bride come into this whole thing?
Yeah.
And how much easier or more difficult is it to walk this path with her alongside?
I have the best, no offense to everybody that's married, but I have the best wife ever. I was sitting, so I had just broken up with my girlfriend from college, and I was, it had been about almost a year, and I was sitting in Tyndall Air Force Base, and I was like, okay, working with Father Frank and understanding that the marriage vocation was for me, discerning that this is what I wanted, this is for me. And so I saw an ad in the bulletin for CatholicMatch.com. It's this online dating site. And I was like, okay. So I went through the checklist in my head. The people that are in Panama City Beach, Florida, are gray-haired elderlies that are retired. I'm not going to date anybody that's in their 60s or 70s. Sorry. I know. I know, right? I was like, okay, there's tons of military people there, okay, but I'm an officer, and I know there's airmen that crawl all over these bars. I'm like, I don't want to put myself in a precarious situation, so I was like, no, I'm not going to do that. And then there's college kids that roll through there. I'm like, no, I'm not going to do that scene again. So I was like, okay, well, all of that's out. I don't know anybody here, so I was like, might as well give this thing a try. And so I logged on and I made a profile and was looking through, and I stopped at Kimmy's picture, and I was like, dang, she is so beautiful. So I messaged her. As any good 21st century young men would do. I hit her with the line, "Hey, what's up?" Right? You guys know. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I know.
Did you pull that one from Sheen's 3 to Get Married?
Yeah, it's in the back. Yeah, it's in the appendix. Yeah, pickup lines. Yeah. And but the cool thing about the website is that we were able to cut right to the chase. I knew it asked you questions about like your faith and things you believe in, and so like we had just already cut through like, okay, this is bedrock, solid foundation of what we believe. And I knew that at that point I was like, okay, I need to meet somebody, and somebody I'm probably gonna need to marry is Catholic, just for my own faith journey. Like I that's I tried dating somebody that wasn't Catholic, and it just didn't work out. The values were just too different, and so we talked, and I mentioned the book, and she said, "Yeah, let's read it together." And so we read it together, and we were messaging, and my subscription was going to end in Catholic Match, and I was like, "Heck no, I ain't paying another $20 for this subscription. I already know the woman that I want to marry." And so I messaged her and I was like, "Hey, can I get your number?" And like a good Catholic girl, she said, "No." And I was like, "Dang." But God arranged things to where her membership was going to end. And she was like, "All right, fine." And it was like a few days later, and I was like, "Okay, that's fine, whatever." I was like, "Okay, I guess, swing and a miss." And she came back and was like, "Oh, wait, okay, actually, I'll give you my number. My membership's about to expire as well." So we start off by texting each other, and we would write, if you've ever written a text so long that it goes to another page, that was like every text for us. And it was just like, I was so excited to message her and to talk to her. And then we graduated to talking on the phone. And when I heard her voice, it was amazing. It was like the most beautiful voice I'd ever heard. I was like, wow. And one of the things in one of Fulton Sheen's books, The World's First Love, which is about Mary, he writes that Mary she's the blueprint of anyone's wife. And so like I had all these, I read about Mary and I have a special devotion to her. So like, okay, when I heard her voice, it was in my mind, it was kind of like what Mary would sound like in a weird way, like just the sound of it, I guess. And so like we were talking, we talked for like 8 hours at a time. I'd be up to like 4 a.m. chatting with her. Then we graduated to FaceTiming. And then one of my fraternity brothers was getting married in Knoxville, Tennessee, and she was in Nashville at the time. So I was like, "Hey, I'm going up to this wedding." And I wasn't going to go, but because I wanted to see her, I was like, "Okay, fine, I'll go." And I was like, "Okay, I'll go up to this wedding, and we can go on a hike afterwards." So I go to the wedding, I get back with the fraternity boys, and I made a big boo-boo, and I had too much to drink. And when we were getting in our Uber, my phone got run over by the Uber driver, and my alarm did not go off. And the next day, we were going to go to Mass in the morning, and it was at like 9 o'clock a.m. where we were supposed to be there. And for me, it was like a 30-minute, 40-minute drive. And she's there, like texting me, and I like fly awake. I'm like, "Oh my gosh!" And I look at my phone, and it's smashed. And thank the Lord, I had my work phone that was attached to my normal phone, so I got all my text messages there. And I texted her back, "I'm so sorry. Can we go to a later Mass?" And she thought I had stood her up, and I really didn't. I didn't want to, but this is why she's the best wife ever. She forgave me. And so we went to another church and went to Mass, and that was the best thing to start a relationship first, like in first meeting, like in hanging out at Mass, and then we went to the Adoration Chapel and said the Rosary together, and just like building this really strong spiritual relationship first. And then we went on this hike. We went on this hike in the Smoky Mountains, and it was this beautiful hike.
Sweating all the booze.
Yeah, sweat it all out. Yeah, it's a little bit of a struggle. And I was supposed to leave at like 4 in the afternoon because it's like a 7-hour drive back to Panama City. Well, I was like, "Nah, I ain't doing that." and we stayed, had dinner. I think I left at like 9 p.m. or something like that, and I got back super late. My guardian angel must have been keeping me awake, because there's no way if I did that now I would have fallen asleep at the wheel. Like I had been awake since 9 o'clock that day, and I didn't go to bed till like 6 a.m. the next day. I drove all through the night. As soon as I got home, I passed out, and then I woke up, and I had to go to confession for this, but I called in to my commander. I was like, hey, I have the flu. I'm sick. I can't come in today. I just slept the rest of the day. But after that, I met her up I showed her around Ole Miss, and that's whenever I asked her if we could start dating. And that's when the courtship really began. Is I would drive up to Nashville, and we would hang out, and she came down to Panama City a few times, and we kept growing closer and closer. And then after like the first few months, I was like, I know I want to marry this girl. And so I proposed to her after we went to Adoration on New Year's Eve. And then unfortunately she said yes. And we got married that following November. And that's been all she wrote since then. She's just amazing. Every dumb thing I do, I was dumb yesterday, and she's such a big heart to forgive me. And I don't think I could have married anyone else. I need somebody like her that has such a big heart. She gives so much, and inspires me to give, to throw my whole self into the relationship and to look at where I can give more. And when I ask for forgiveness, she always forgives me. So she's amazing. Yeah.
Wonderful. So now I feel like we have to have the obligatory discussion, since this is the Arrows and it is Arrows Tales. Chubby kid who didn't exercise, got into fitness, ran to your first PT, which sounds miserable, as someone who's never been to any sort of PT like that. Where does rugby kind of fit into this equation? How are you here? What brought you to the Arrows?
Yeah. So I played rugby in high school. I played golf my freshman and sophomore year, and I was just the guy on the team that could bomb the ball, but I could not do anything else. So I never played. And I remember there was a golf tournament, like the last time whenever I quit the following year, I stopped playing. We played this golf tournament, and I played with this other guy who was also not very good, but we were killing it. Well, we were putting the ball in with the stick in the cup, because that's just how I always played with my grandpa growing up. And some nerd, some Melvin at the end of the game was like, excuse me, you guys putted every putt in with the flag, and that's a 2-stroke penalty every hole. And we posted this the best score we had ever posted. And we had to add like 40 strokes because we were putting it in. So I was like, all right, golf's not for me. And so then I played football. I wrestled my freshman year. And one of the reasons why I played all these sports was because my mom had a lot of kids, and so she could never pick us up till like 7 p.m. at night. So it was like either sit there and do nothing or get involved and do something. And so my older brother, he was playing on the rugby team, and he was like, hey, man, why don't you come out and try it? And I remember going out first day. I had no idea what rugby was. I'd never played it before, and we did a scrimmage. And I remember I'm playing on this side, on this scrimmage, and some dude just gets like absolutely cut in half. And then the ruck forms. I don't know what a ruck is at the time. And some dude tries to ruck over, and then that dude gets exploded, blown up. And I'm standing right next to the ruck just laughing because there's just chaos all around me. I'm like, this is awesome. And so I played my junior year, and then I played my senior year. Then I went to college, and my brother, he played for Lindenwood. He went off and got a rugby scholarship, played for Lindenwood. And they won a national championship and all that. And he's like, well, I'm not going to be a professional rugby player. So he transferred to Ole Miss my sophomore year. And I was so busy with the Air Force and all this. And he started playing rugby at Ole Miss. And he was like, hey, man, why don't you come out? And I was like, all right, fine, I'll come out and play. And I played, and I had a blast. I loved doing it. And so I played, it was like my sophomore through senior year at Ole Miss. I didn't play much. I still wasn't very good. I didn't know much technique or anything like that, and because I only played really 2 years in high school, and but I had a love for the game, and so I finally get to Western Academy, and they needed a assistant rugby coach, and I was like, sure, I'll do it. I've played before. I can help teach these guys how to tackle and stuff like that, and just do stuff. And went out and coached and started getting the itch to hit somebody, and I was like, dang. And I started watching some rugby videos, and I was like, oh, man, I really want to get out and play. And then so I was like, all right, where's some club? Because my brother, all along, it's my brother has been the example. I look up to him a ton, and he lives up in New York, and he's playing for a club team up there. And I was like, wonder if they have a club team around here that I can play for. So I started looking up, Googling all the different rugby teams.
That Google ad money, baby.
Yeah, right.
Good job, Presidente.
Right. And yeah, and I came across, it was like Hurt and some of the other teams, and I was like, oh, okay, it looks kind of cool, but it was kind of like just looked like debauchery, I guess. I was like, I don't no aspersions on those clubs. I know nothing about them. I've never gone out to play for them. It just looked like, I was like, I'm not sure if I want to be at that place. I was like, I don't know if I want to put myself there. And then I was like looking at who I think Hurt played, and the Arrows was there. I was like, oh, well, who are the Arrows? So I looked up the Arrows, and when I came across, oh, this is a Catholic club, I was like, check, this is awesome. And then whenever the thing that really, sold me on it, and I was like, okay, I'm firing off an email to Blake right now, was when I saw the mission statement. And I was like, oh, okay. Even if we don't live up to these standards, like, we have a standard to strive for. And I was like, okay, these are the guys that I want to play with. Because the guys that come out for this club are going to be, some modicum of, they're going to have goodness. They're going to be striving for goodness somehow. And even if they don't live up to that, they're going to, like the mission statement says, they're going to apologize to God first and then the team second. And I was like, that's what I want. Because I've played sports where you have a guy on your team that's like always yelling at the ref and always, like breaking everybody else down in practice. Yeah. And yelling at each other at practice, and I was like, I don't want to do that. These guys seem like a good group of guys. So I emailed Blake. Blake got back to me in 0.3 seconds.
Blake's just nervous.
And he's got the headset on.
Yeah, he had the headset on. And it was just through the tone of Blake's emails, I was like, okay, this is a really good guy. Let me come out and try it. And then whenever I came out for that first practice, it was just all of you guys, everybody, any new guy we have here. I mean, everybody comes up to you and introduces themselves, and I remember it was fun. It was fun because I quickly made friends with a lot of guys, like guys that met me, asked me what my name was, and remembered what my name was. And after I met them, whenever I was running, we were running hands drills. We're like, "Hey, Mitch, ball left." I was like, "Oh." He's not just calling me, hey, buddy, hey, slugger, hey, guy. He really knows my name. And I felt like it was a family. And then the fact that we have a coach that knows way more than I will ever know about rugby, that was cool to me too. I was like, okay, I can learn a lot from this guy. And having guys that have played, in high levels, like Norm and Paul and, guys that I can just pick their brains. Okay, where do you want me? Where should I be at? And I've grown so much as a rugby player just from learning from all of you guys. I mean, everybody knows something more than I do on the field. I just every day when I come out here, I learn something new. I'm just want to be quiet and listen and learn from you guys. But I've also made amazing friends. I mean, all of you guys. I mean, it's been great to just have another family outside of my church community, outside of Western Academy, that I can, we saw each other at a bar, we saw each other at a restaurant. Like I saw, back when Jasper played, I saw him at the restaurant he worked at. And it was awesome. Like we got to hang out and share a drink together. Gave us a free shot because he worked at a bar, and it was great. It was just like, and it's cool because I get, I turn to my wife, I'm like, yeah, that's my brother. I get to brag about, this is my buddy. This is a guy that I know and that I really care about. These are, and then whenever we go out on the field, I feel like everybody that comes out for this club is serious. You guys want to win. That's another thing. Like, I don't want to come out to lose. And so everybody wants to win. Everybody tries as hard as they possibly can. Nobody's loafing around. You know, when Andy needs to say something, everybody quiets down really quick. It's just like there's a lot of respect. There's a lot of, you know, mutual respect between the players and the teammates. And you can really feel, I really feel that everybody plays for each other, which is why I would never play a sport and break my finger and want to go back out onto the field for guys who could care less about me. And so, and that's what keeps me coming out. And that's what, and my wife knows that. She sees that in my how much fun and enjoyment I get out of this. You know, we have a little one at home that's 3 months old, or two and a half, or almost 2 months old. And she, you know, there are times where she wishes I was home, but she knows that this is important to me. She knows that I have you guys that, you know, fill me up, really I care about. And that's why she, if I hated it and I came home like, oh, this is, I don't know, she would probably ask me, you know, maybe you should not, maybe you should stay home. And she loves you guys. She loves that I, you know, coming out to the games and meeting you guys. Everybody, you know, when she came, everybody came up and said hey to her and said hey to Leo. Like, that was huge for her. And so it's just it's a great club filled with great guys that are striving for, striving for something, just rugby and winning the championship, but even beyond that, building great friendships that are going to last a lifetime and striving for that, you know, eternal glory.
Yeah. Cheers, man. We're glad you're here. I think we're at either break or Q&A time. Okay. Awesome. Yeah. Cheers, man.
Recording off, and we're gonna ask some real questions now. No.
Real questions.
So hey, grab a beer.